Yes, the lady at the back.
Hello, Joan Moynihan from NIMAX Theatres. I think it would be very helpful in trying to achieve some balance if the council could perhaps find out more. I'm talking particularly about theatres, about how we operate our businesses, because every time there's a planning application, number one, we start from point zero in explaining how our businesses operate, and it's fairly fundamental. And number two, in terms of communications, every time the letter, however much we write, and you all know who we all are and who the contact people are, the letter goes to the registered office, to our auditors, to a theatre where it lays on someone's desk for 2 weeks. And every single time, the same information comes into the council. So if it were possible to have a slightly more joined-up approach, I think arriving at a balance would be a quicker and more helpful process.
And a lot of you, and this is probably more so a question to the businesses than the residents, deal with other local authorities on a day-to-day basis. How do you find in this sort of approach Westminster differs from Leeds, or it is perhaps less sophisticated than other local authorities? Good Lord, no one wants to criticise me. It's fantastic. David? Not an individual, collectively.
I would say that there is, in fact, a consistent approach. I understand the problem the lady just spoken, because the whole business of you have to write to registered offices, that's where you have to write, but that is an issue. But generally speaking, Westminster City Council has a greater track record in a consistent approach, which is easy to follow, and we're certainly, from our point of view, concerned around the edges of policy rather than any fundamental difficulties.
Thank you. The gentleman at the back of the room.
Thank you. Julian Anderson, Pimlico resident, now retired, but formerly with a career in national government level. Had quite a lot to do with local government in that capacity. One of the things that working at the national level struck me, and it's in a sense come out today from my colleague across there, is the way councils do not talk to each other. So, Council, I was extremely interested in your intervention. I've been to a couple of these meetings so far, and it struck me very much thinking about it afterwards that here was Westminster somewhat swimming alone. Is there a website? Is there an inter-council website? So the other 800 you can talk to and say, hey, have you thought about this problem? What are you doing? Rather than every time having to reinvent the wheel. So it's a point that comes up, and I was stimulated by your point on specific applications, but it's a much wider application, it seems to me, that until we get something much more joined up, so you can say, I don't agree with what they're doing in Brighton, or I don't agree what they're doing in Scunthorpe, but at least I know they've thought of this, and they've had a brilliant idea in Lancashire, which I think we ought to follow.
Yes.
So it's a horizontal issue, not just for tonight, but right across the exercise.
I think that there is something in that. We often think of ourselves, Westminster, as slightly isolated from everyone else, and I think we at times need to remember that we're not. At the same time, there are significant differences between the pressures that we face and the pressures that are faced elsewhere. But talking shops like London Council, like the Local Government Association, do exist for a purpose, and we use them.
I was going to say as well, through the development particularly of the core strategy, but also this work, we do look at what other authorities have done. And one of the problems we have is in the new process, there aren't too many documents agreed yet nationally, which makes it difficult to look for best practice. But
does anyone else have comment at this stage? I'd be interested. We've heard from the Crown Estate, but are there other landowners or developers here that have issues with changes of class in entertainment uses that they consider we adopt an approach which is somewhat antiquated? I'm being pejorative on purpose there. I just want to hear a view. No.